Social Security Phone Changes 2025. New verification rules impact seniors. What you need to know. Imagine a world where seniors find it increasingly difficult to manage their Social Security needs, all in the name of preventing fraud. This is the reality that many older Americans will soon face as the Social Security Administration, SSA, implements new measures that complicate routine tasks like changing an address or checking the status of a benefit claim. Instead of simply making a phone call, seniors will now be required to verify their identity online or visit a local field office if they cannot complete the online process. In a recent regulatory filing submitted to the Office of Management and Budget, the SSA outlined its plan to expand online identity verification for various services, including address changes, requests for claim status, benefit verification letters, and tax statements. This change is expected to take effect by August 18th, pending approval from the OMB. However, advocacy groups are sounding the alarm, expressing concerns that many seniors and individuals with disabilities may struggle to navigate the new verification process, which involves generating a one-time PIN through their My Social Security accounts. The SSA anticipates that approximately 3.4 million individuals will need to visit field offices each year to complete these tasks, a significant increase in foot traffic. Nancy Lamond, AARP's Chief Advocacy and Engagement Officer, articulated these concerns in a letter to Social Security Commissioner Frank Bisignano. She emphasized that for many older Americans, the phone has been a lifeline for accessing Social Security services without the need for complex technology or the burden of traveling to field offices, which can be both time-consuming and costly. Lamond warned that under the new policy, seniors, especially those living in rural areas, might find themselves waiting on hold for extended periods, only to face long waits for appointments, sometimes even needing to take time off work to complete simple transactions that were previously manageable over the phone. In response to the publication of this story, a spokesperson for the SSA claimed that the report was misleading, asserting that the new identification process would not lead to an increase in visits to field offices and that participation in the new system is completely optional. Yet, the agency's own regulatory filing does not support this claim, indicating that they expect 3.4 million individuals to opt out of the online process and seek in-person identity verification instead. Currently, it takes an average of 35 days to secure an appointment at a Social Security field office, a situation exacerbated by staff reductions amid a significant reorganization within the agency. This new policy is just the latest in a series of controversial measures aimed at combating fraud, a push that began during the Trump administration. Previous attempts to tighten security led to widespread confusion among beneficiaries, many of whom rushed to contact Social Security's 800 number or visit field offices, fearing they would need to prove their identities to continue receiving their monthly benefits. The SSA had to retract a recent measure that aimed to review retirement benefit applications for fraud, as it resulted in a backlog and flagged only a minuscule number of claims for further verification. Nevertheless, the agency has maintained a policy that prohibits beneficiaries from changing their direct deposit information over the phone, mandating that such changes be made online or in person. This particular policy is projected to drive an additional 1.9 million people to field offices each year. Critics, including Kathleen Romig, Director of Social Security and Disability Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, argue that there is no evidence to suggest that requesting address changes or completing other routine tasks over the phone has led to fraud. Romig, who has experience working with the agency during the Biden administration, stated, "There's just no evidence that this is a problem." The new anti-fraud measures are expected to increase field office visits by 17%, which could result in beneficiaries spending an estimated 3 million hours traveling to offices to complete their transactions. This initiative also aligns with Commissioner Bisignano's goal of encouraging more beneficiaries to utilize the agency's online services for their requests, as all tasks requiring additional verification can be handled through My Social Security. As this situation unfolds, it raises important questions about accessibility and the balance between security and convenience for our senior citizens. Are these new measures truly necessary, or do they create more barriers for those who rely on Social Security services? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with the SSA's approach, or do you believe it disproportionately affects vulnerable populations? New SSA phone service restrictions. What you need to know. Imagine having to travel to a physical office just to change your address or get a tax document. That's exactly what the Social Security Administration, SSA, plans to do with some of its phone services, potentially affecting millions of Americans each year. The SSA is proposing to restrict access to 4 routine services over the phone, steering customers to either their online accounts or local Social Security offices. This move, if approved by the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, will take effect on August 18th and could significantly impact how people interact with the agency. According to the SSA's regulatory filing on July 18th, the new rule would redirect more than 3.4 million annual calls to local offices. These calls currently handle services such as reporting a change of address, obtaining a benefit verification letter, getting an SSA 1099 or 1042S tax form, and checking the status of a pending benefit claim. But here's where it gets controversial. The SSA argues that these changes are necessary to mitigate fraud risks. But critics argue that they will disproportionately affect older adults, especially those in rural areas or with mobility issues. To use these services, individuals will need to log into their online My Social Security account, generate a one-time security authorization PIN, and provide it to a telephone agent. For those without an online account or unable to manage transactions online, the only option will be to visit a local office. This requirement builds on a similar procedure introduced in April for changing direct deposit information. Just 3 months ago, the SSA faced significant backlash for a similar proposal that required people filing new benefit claims to verify their identity online or in person. That plan was swiftly dropped after strong opposition from AARP and other advocacy groups. Now, AARP is once again urging the SSA to reconsider the latest proposal, warning that it will worsen the agency's already strained customer service and disproportionately impact vulnerable populations. Nancy Lehman, AARP's Chief Advocacy and Engagement Officer, highlighted the challenges faced by older adults in a letter to SSA Commissioner Frank Bisignano. She noted that 1 in 4 older adults never goes online, making the online verification process a significant hurdle. Additionally, in-person visits are particularly difficult for seniors living in rural areas, those with mobility issues, or those lacking reliable transportation. The SSA's decision seems to align with Commissioner Frank Bisignano's vision of transforming the agency into a digital-first, technology-led organization. In his testimony to Congress on June 25, Bisignano emphasized the need to modernize the SSA's operations. However, the new policy raises concerns about the practicality and accessibility of these changes, especially given the SSA's ongoing staff reductions. The agency is cutting its workforce by 12%, from about 57,000 employees to 50,000, including nearly 2,000 departures from field offices. Despite efforts to transfer employees to frontline roles, the reduction in staff could exacerbate existing customer service issues. Kathleen Romig, a former SSA official and current director of Social Security and Disability Policy at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, points out that the affected services are routine tasks that many older adults rely on. For example, Romig's mother, who is almost 80 and has mobility challenges, would face significant difficulties if she had to visit a local office. My mom doesn't drive anymore and uses a walker. so she would need someone to drive her and help her get in and out of the car, Romig explains, adding that this scenario is common among older beneficiaries. Michael Astrew, a former Social Security Commissioner under the George W. Bush administration, argues that the SSA's phone service has historically been essentially fraud-free. He notes that government watchdogs have consistently found very little fraud in Social Security operations. Despite this, the SSA continues to implement stricter identity verification measures, which could further strain an already overburdened system. The new ID rules, combined with the requirement to call ahead and schedule appointments at local offices, are likely to create additional bottlenecks. Astrew predicts a surge in phone calls trying to book these appointments, leading to longer wait times and increased frustration for beneficiaries. And this is the part most people miss. While the SSA aims to enhance security, the practical implications of these changes could have far-reaching consequences, particularly for the most vulnerable members of society. What do you think? Should the SSA prioritize digital transformation, even if it means making life harder for some beneficiaries? Or should they focus on maintaining accessible, user-friendly services? Share your thoughts in the comments below.